All right, everybody, thanks for being here. If you stayed in the room, I apologize. I'm going to be here for a couple of more hours. Just to touch a little bit on what we were talking about before with Expedient and owning 11 data centers. They are all connected by bidirectional private fiber. So as far as the cloud computing goes, we have a lot of control over our environment, and it is tailored to each customer to provide what that customer's needs and proclivities are as far as their performance, as far as their security, and what it is they're doing. So a good friend of Expedient's and a new friend of mine is Christopher Evans. He's from Savvior, and today's topic is the compounding challenge of enterprise visibility. So welcome, Christopher.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Thanks, everyone, for staying awake after that great lunch and coming in to hear about knowledge management and big data and all the great things that we have in store for you today. This is actually my second time speaking here at this event in as many years, so it's a real honor. And again, a huge thank you to the entire PTC community for all they do for the region and for this topic. So Savvior. Let's start at the beginning. I'm going to tell you a little bit about why we do what we do. Then I'm really going to drill down to the reason that hopefully you're in this room, which is to understand how we're doing what we're doing with knowledge management. For those of you who are not acquainted with our company, Savvior, our goal in life is to really connect business units with the technology arm of companies. Build bridges, if you will, between business units and get to data. Of course, you had to know it. We're talking about data today. One of the big key reasons why we do this, marketing is changing quite a bit. And marketing often drives technology decisions, more so than ever before. In 2017, there are a number of statistics that are going to show there are actually going to be more dollars spent by CMOs than by chief information officers in the country. It's pretty amazing when you think about it. It's also kind of scary when you think about it, because most chief marketing officers are guys and gals like me, right brain people, not left brain people. So when you get into making those types of decisions, it really helps to have a team like ours, heavy-duty technology experts, to help guide that process. So in a nutshell, the reason that we exist is to help the CMO and other business units connect with the CIO, and wherever possible, implement solutions that play nicely with systems that are in place, but solve very specific business problems. I think the folks from PPG said it best. The CIO wrestles with these three areas: annual projects, business emergencies, and innovative concepts. I think you can probably imagine which one suffers the most. What I mean by that is innovation. It's really, there's not enough money or time or staff to address all the wonderful wants that the business needs and asks for. So a lot of times the CIO and the IT teams respectively are often really burdened by the fact that they want to serve but can't serve every need. And a lot of times we come in bringing experience from other industries, cross-platform and cross-industry experience, to help really get innovation to the forefront of the needs to serve the business. So that's what we mean when we say cross-functional collaboration. We're based here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We have a team that is just over the Penn Brewery, if those of you know the north side area. And I will say nothing about whether or not we frequent downstairs when they're done writing code. You can ask our tech team guys about that afterward. But in a nutshell, we kind of jokingly call ourselves SEAL Team 6. And that's with a lot of reverence for what those members of the military do. We certainly don't carry any weapons other than the knowledge and software development skills. The last piece I really wanted to share with you about kind of when we get injected and why we're talking about knowledge management today. This crazy looking graph here really shows you the entire tech stack of a large enterprise, all the way through to the web and mobile application layer. Many companies exist that solve specific niche areas throughout this stack. These icons on the bottom represent your Oracle, your SAP, your Microsoft, the places where data lives. When Savvior comes in, we have folks on the team that are able to address each of these areas and make sure we're taking information from down here all the way up there, putting it in the hands of users, whether those be internal to the company or external clients, customers, you name it. So in essence, that's how the SWAT team functions. And this is who we do it for, some of the world's largest companies, and also a lot of mid-sized companies as well, because they too wrestle with data and application challenges, don't they? And I will say that once in a while we win awards for what we do. Now, enough with the who we are. Let's get to the meat of it. Knowledge management. This is a term that's been probably overused and floating around since the late 1990s. It means a lot of different things to a lot of different entities. But what we're talking about is pure and simple, if you were explaining it to a child, the left hand and the right hand knowing what each other are doing on the body. Lack of visibility across an enterprise of any size is a problem, and it's a compounding problem. When you think about knowledge management and understanding where information resides, whether it be in the heads of employees or on spreadsheets or in email or other areas, when that information is not readily accessible and digestible and usable, it's a huge problem. You can often have a lot of time and money spent answering questions that already have answers. When you think about this, it also delays innovation. It delays the ability for organizations to compete and to dominate the market. Why it becomes such a problem is it's often difficult. The larger you are, the more this is a problem. Now you're not talking about just call Peg or just call Bill. He knew about that project a while ago. I've actually lived this problem in a number of companies in my past lives. As the head of marketing for a very large publicly traded human capital IT staffing company years ago, you would have thought I was asking for the Holy Grail to try to figure out where information existed about case studies. Literally would have to get on an airplane and fly down to Texas to pry any information out of the team I had down there on projects and historical information, simply that I could do my job, which was creating, at the time, case studies and promotional materials around work we had already done. I can tell you half of my year was spent digging for information. It's very frustrating. And that's a real problem. Poor access to historical data is a huge problem for companies. And it becomes, again, I use the word compounding when we start thinking about acquisitions or liquidity events, right? Now you have multiple iterations of the same problem on a global scale. And what it means is a time sink and a money sink. Collaboration suffers as well. When it's not easy to know where to go for information, oftentimes people reinvent the wheel. This is why sometimes we're called in to destroy spreadsheets. The employees in a given company mean no ill will when they circumvent or use spreadsheets in parallel to the enterprise resource planning systems or customer relationship management systems that are there. There's a piece of the puzzle that's missing. They need to do a business process that those systems can't do. Well, what happens when they leave the company? That information goes with them. It's almost impossible to lock that kind of stuff up. So there's a lot of waste that goes involved when you're not addressing knowledge management. And I think it goes without saying, for many of you who know, who maybe on the hiring side or have teams underneath your responsibilities, we're looking at a whole new breed of talent. The overused millennial stigma that may accompany these young folks that are coming into our workforce. One thing's for sure is they're used to online collaboration tools. They're used to having information in the palm of their hands. So as an organization looks to attract and retain that kind of talent, do you have the systems in place that those kind of individuals can readily expect and want to use? There's a consideration of that. I'll also say there's a big difference between understanding where your data exists and actually being able to do anything with it. Data is wonderful, but is it meaningful information? Can we turn it into that? Those are the big things plaguing individuals who are wrestling with knowledge management challenges today. And can you have that in a single repository? That's probably a pipe dream, or at least it was, until what I'm about to show you came to market. Lastly, security is a huge issue. Not everyone in the organization has the right to have information, right? What I mean by that is, of course, access and protocols and executive levels and things as such. So how do you organize that data so that the right people are getting the right information, but no eyes are seeing anything that they shouldn't be seeing? Savvior has come up with this answer through a product that we are going to market with, and publicly this is the first time this is being revealed. It has been deployed, we'll talk about that in a few moments, at a number of major entities around the globe. But this is our brand splash, so thank you for being part of a little bit of Savvior history to here today. I will say that our company learns a lot from our clients. Our clients are the ones that are wrestling with a business problem, and they often teach us what they're wrestling with. It's our job then to interpret that and come up with solutions. Other times we've observed things in the marketplace and say, we've heard the call time and time again to solve this particular problem, and there's nothing out on the market readily available to do it. That's what we're talking about with OmniView. OmniView, simply put, I would call it Wikipedia for an enterprise. It is a tool, a magnificent tool that integrates with any myriad of systems that are already in place, including things like skimming emails and finding repositories of information that are siloed, and presents that in a format, in an application that is actually great to use, like Wikipedia. It facilitates the collection, retention, and management of data for organizations. And it's very much an intuitive system that helps connect information that may be in silos. First question I got when I mentioned this to someone this morning was, is it search? It is not just search. It's all of the things that you're looking at here, including an incredible layer of features that can be deployed but don't need to be deployed. You know, when you're in the business of custom, as we are, we tailor what we offer to the needs of a given entity. But the interesting thing I think about this particular system is that it has the ability to be a passive system and skim information from places that would otherwise not be shareable, like email. So it's a pretty fantastic and pretty unique system. When asked to create this for our initial deployment, we looked hard to see if there was anything out on the market that did what OmniView now does. And I can tell you we also aggregated a number of available technologies to build this system. But there really wasn't anything commercially available that can do what this does. So prove it, right? It's nice to talk about it, but show me the action. We're really pleased to have in the room today a friend and a wonderful client of ours, Rachel here from Arconic, the artists formerly known as Alcoa, where OmniView exists as Alexandria. They have a much cooler name for it internally, don't they? Many of you who followed this wonderful corporation's trajectory know that they're leaders in innovation. I can honestly tell you, having worked with them now for a couple of years, I'm consistently amazed at the level of innovation that I see on multiple levels, everything from product development through collaborative tools that the teams use. And knowledge management has been a focus area of discussion for the company for many years. They're big. If you're not familiar with how big they are, they've been around 125 years and are $23 billion in revenue. It's pretty large. A lot of offices, a lot of employees all over the world. And they too were wrestling with the problems that we talked about, which were siloed information. Call Bob, Bob will know. Where's Bob? I don't know. Now we're exaggerating a little bit for fun, right? But it is a challenge, and it's time consuming. Let's talk about 500,000 technical records. When they looked to separate this company, one of the challenges that arose was where and how do we get all this information? Where is the IP? To where does it go? Who owns it? Even all the way down to assets. It's a huge, huge problem. And we were thrilled to be the team that could answer that call. And of course now commercialize this product for the rest of the world who needs it. And as we are seeing already, there are a lot of companies that are very excited about this. So the initial need, I would say, was the separation of these records for the two entities. But overall, they really, again, to their credit at Arconic, wanted to reimagine what knowledge management means, not only in a current state, but as these two entities move forward and as they attack the market in new ways. So it's a fascinating deployment, and we're thrilled to have them as the initial client of this wonderful product. You're actually looking at the user experience. And as I mentioned, I come back to Wikipedia. I don't want to say we copied their style, but that's kind of a nod to how wonderfully intuitive Wikipedia is. And if I'll step onto a soapbox of UX for a moment, user experience, the best design systems really are easy to use. They don't require an owner's manual. They are at your fingertips something you want to use to do your daily job. We've been told by the folks at Arconic in the initial deployment and those that are following that the system is something they really, really love to use. So it's a fantastic user experience created by our team. And let's talk about kind of how it's used on an almost daily basis. They're not almost on a daily basis. You're able to tag documents based on which company. So whether it's an Alcoa piece of information or an Arconic respectively, and some of that, you can imagine the magnitude of what we're talking about in launching a spinoff of this sort. And it has a world-class architecture, bulk searching and tagging. And let's also think about what the folks at Alcoa and Arconic do. There are some pretty high-end nerds over there and some pretty highly technical stuff going on, including top secret stuff that I can't tell you about and they can't tell you about. When you think about the level of specificity of how deep the technical information is that we're dealing with, all the more reason this has to not only be intuitive and collaborative, it has to be easily accessible and accurate at all times. National security, in many cases, relies on that accuracy. I'll also say that, as is custom when you engage the folks from Savvior, we were able to take a look at some areas of potential efficiency from this deployment, and we're able to consolidate a number of systems. And it's really transforming the company and the business performance that they have. This is the kind of product that we could see why they want to wave the flag of, because they took the initiative to redefine knowledge management. And quite frankly, they are now in possession of, we think, the world's finest, or one of the world's finest tools that solves this problem. I'll also say that when you take a look at some of these points, you can certainly read, I won't read all of it, but it is enterprise search, and it will grow with the organization as they grow and as they evolve. It even has the ability for people to add records, and that's really interesting, because obviously new things are happening every day with these companies. Just to get another example of the flow of the user experience. And I should say, as with the majority of products that Savvior puts to market, we didn't start from scratch. We started from one of our world-class bedrock products, Savvy CMS, which is not the most clever name that I've ever come up with for content management system. Why is that important? Well, again, you're taking a look at a project that had to happen in a very compressed time frame. When the executives of that company said, we're going to split this entity up, they didn't have 5 years and $5 million to experiment with this type of solution. We were able to create this product in under 8 months, on time and ahead of budget as well, under budget, excuse me. One of the big reasons is, again, world-class architecture that we brought forward in use at other entities all around the country. I know our time is winding up, but I'm pleased to say I still have 2 minutes, Carol, thank you. Most importantly, you saw today how UPMC had to create a solution not dissimilar from this, and the struggle and what goes involved with that, both from a time and market perspective. Pleased to tell you this is ready for deployment as we speak. And it doesn't have to be a $23 billion company that uses it. We think we've stumbled onto a really amazing way of addressing this ages-old problem with this product. And we're really thrilled to share the progress with you in future events of this sort. So with that said, we still have some time for some questions. I should also say that I brought along some firepower. Nick Ledoux, our Chief Technology Officer and one of the chief architects of this solution. So in case it gets too technical for the old CMO up here, we can answer some questions if you have any about it. And thank you for your interest in the product. Yes, hi there.
Hi, so a question on the tagging within OmniView. Is that a taxonomy-based tagging, or can you talk a little bit about your strategy on the tagging side?
That's excellent. And I should also point out that, Rachel, you may also want to weigh in on some of this as well. I have a live microphone for them both.
Oh, sure.
Come on up, Rachel.
We deployed a... Hello?
Yep,
Okay.
it's live.
Sorry, tech guy. We deployed an automated metadata extraction tool, which does give suggestions, and then at that point, so primarily at this point in time, new records are being added into the system, even though initially we did consume a large data sets for ingestion. Now the final records are being input into the system directly. So our system currently is extracting mostly information around metals, and at that point it's more like it's like a taxonomy based tagging at that point in time. Hopefully that was as confusing as it sounded when I said it.
Other questions? Yes, sir.
What kind of analytics will you be able to perform on your data once it's been ingested into your system?
Excellent question.
So for the first phase of deployment, we established the Bedrock system, and we're currently capturing everything into an Orient DB database, which is a graph-based database similar to like a social network. So in our phase 2 deployment, we hope to start making connections between users, and one of our major goals there would be to identify hidden expertise within the company. It's one use case, threat identification. Those are some of the bullets. So in our next deployment of the program, specifically for Arconic, that's going to be the machine learning will play a much greater role.
Please.
On the user analytics side, we've been running some of those since the system launched on August 1st. And you'll remember that we had 500,000 records going back 125 years. Since the system launched on August 1st, we've had 40,000 new records go in, and a quarter of the site logs in every single day. So we're able to track the usage, and we're able to validate that people are using it exponentially more than people were contributing information to the site from before when the system was created.
That's awesome. Other questions in the time remaining? Yes, sir. You in the blue.
I don't mean this to come on. This is like a very advanced sharing tool, so it's like it would be a communication tool mixed with like a good SharePoint plus like much more. I mean, is it fair?
Yeah, I would.
It's actually
if
a
I
great
was going
question.
to put it in a box, I would say it's enterprise search mixed with like emerging like social interaction type technology and like knowledge repository. Not even though there are documents going in, it's not to be confused with like a revision control system or something like that. It doesn't play that role, but it does house documents.
Yes, sir.
You raised a statement earlier that said you want to have an application which is something you want to use to do your job. It sounds like what you said, 25% of your staff using the tool. It's a very strong case to continue it. What did you have to do to present to them the desire to use that particular tool as a solution to what they were currently doing?
Yeah, and that's a huge cultural struggle when you're introducing a new tool anywhere. And one of the things that was helpful was it's a research and development site. So the site kind of runs on funded projects. And so we worked with the project management office and made this one of the key tools that they use in that flow path. And so the benefit to the engineers and the researchers who use the system is that they now have a nice project management tool that allows them to show leadership what they're doing and what the benefits of their project are. And as they do that, they are passively feeding into the system project updates and project descriptions and reviews, which then go into the knowledge management system, which we get to use for years and years after the fact.
It has a long life. Just one last question.
What kind of data files types you're ingesting into the system, and what was the driver to choose this particular technology?
Under the hood, there's some Apache leucine technology, and really you can ingest any sort of content into that. Primarily in this case, we're ingesting a lot of PDF, a lot of XML, a lot of Office type documents, and a whole bunch of AutoCAD files, which those were, but really you could write a connector. Oh, and some custom databases like SQL-based databases, but you could write a connect. We have our own custom crawler that we wrote specific to purpose that sort of tackled those use cases for the enterprise.
As well as the custom reporting that follows. Yeah.
Right.
That's the benefit of working with Bespoke.
Will you guys be at the cocktail reception?
Yes, we will.
Okay. Any other questions? And it seems like there's quite a few. They'll all be happy to.
We'll answer those after the second drink.
I'm gonna get in trouble.
Thank you, Carol. And thank all of you. We appreciate you coming by today.